Welcome to the Well Built Podcast. I'm here for the first time virtually with my good friend and colleague Matt Verderamo. Matt, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, CP. It's an episode of a couple of firsts here.
It is. We've got a couple of firsts, and not to mention that I'm sitting by myself on our couch that we kind of like to snuggle on.
Which I like to snuggle on, but you don't like as much. Let's just be clear.
Fact.
Let's
True.
call a spade a spade.
We also have the first of what we anticipate to be many guests on the Well Built Podcast, and it's my pleasure to introduce to our audience Jason Keller. Jason, thank you so much for being with us.
Glad to be here, and glad to be. I'm assuming you're first. Hopefully it goes well.
Number one. We're off on the right foot. We've got technology sorted, and I know that's always the toughest part.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad to have you with us. So Jason is the managing partner of Block Companies. Block is General Contractor based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They also have an office in Houston, and they're growing their footprint all over the southern United States, really, and coming to a state near you from the sound of it. Block is up around 100 employees today, and they focus in multifamily work. They focus in commercial work, and inside multifamily, they really have a specialization in affordable housing and really any kind of project that comes with some of the complexities of a compliance environment. So that could also blend into student housing. It could blend into military housing, things along those lines. They've really built a well-oiled machine for handling that type of stuff. Block is a longtime client of Well Built, and we've been honored to have the opportunity to work with you guys. So I think it would be great, Jason, if you just kind of painted a picture of when you started the business and how the business has evolved from the time you've started it to where you are today.
Sure. Happy to do that. I started the business actually with myself and my wife in 2005. We had a subcontractor who was a friend of mine who was working on a large job, and he had a typical job site trailer, office on each end, conference room in the middle. And one of the offices was just stacked full of junk. And I said, hey, if I clean that junk out, can I throw, computer in there and work? He said, sure. So my wife and I literally went to Home Depot, bought a 4-foot fiberglass. I'll show you where I'm from. Crawfish table is what we call them, but a 4-foot fiberglass table.
It's a crawfish table.
Yeah. And we had one computer, and she and I sat on each side of it, and that's the way we started. She did the books, I estimated, I did the management. She did a lot of phone calls for estimating, and when I started out, I was the superintendent, project manager, estimator, everything, and we just kind of grew from there.
Awesome.
When I first started out, I told everybody I'd build a doghouse, and I think I did it one.
That's amazing.
Wow, I love it.
So you start the business in 2005. You would build anything to get things rolling. You're doing this thing at a crawfish table in a somebody's office space that you've gotten them to allow you to use.
Yep.
And what happens next?
We started out and did a lot of tenant interiors. It was not big jobs. I remember the first project I landed was about $115,000, and I thought I'd hit the lotto. I was so appreciative to get that first job. And we grew from there and did more commercial work. We built some schools. We did office buildings. We built a lot of things at LSU for the university. But shortly thereafter, within 3 years, in 2008, right about the wonderful time that we were going through in the economy, I had decided I wanted to open a second company because I wanted to build multifamily, specifically affordable housing. So in 2008, I opened up Block Builders, which is our multifamily arm. And shortly thereafter, my brother, older brother, Steve, who has a lot of experience in development and construction as well, we joined together. He joined me and we joined together. And we started pursuing multifamily work along with commercial.
Awesome. So at that point, do you stop doing commercial work or what happens?
No, we kept doing commercial work, but I quickly realized that I had a pretty big passion for the affordable housing market. Affordable housing is very different from what I would say your typical construction project is. I always, as every, I think, contractor wants to be, when you drive past a building you built, you want to be proud of it. You say, hey, I did something. You know, we built that. We were a part of that. And that was great. But I wanted to be able to do something more than that, something that would really affect people's lives, the community, and really in an impactful way. And affordable housing allowed us to do that because, yes, you're building, whether it's an apartment complex or a single family build to rent residence or what have you, you're actually putting people in there who need assistance and who need help. And you have to know how to work within the confines with the federal, state, and local governments, which is complicated. There's a lot of contractors who may have the idea they want to be in that space, but when they find out how complicated it is, many different funding sources, a lot of requirements, a lot of compliance that just your everyday contractor does not do, that you have to comply with it. So it's very paperwork intensive, but it's worth it. I think it's worth it.
That's such an interesting choice for you to make in 2008, and it sounds like driven fundamentally by a desire to build something that matters, which is awesome. And then, like, did you know what you were getting into?
I did. Over my career, I had done a couple of affordable projects. I had to build up a little bit to get into the affordable market because you have to have a certain pedigree or a little bit of experience, whether it be financial or just experience within that arena before you can just get into it. And again, a lot of people, when they first do that, don't like having to, I guess, comply with and do the things that all these federal agencies make you do. I liked it. I still like it. It's my favorite thing to do to this day. You know, we do senior housing as well in the same network. As you said before, we're looking at student housing within the same type of financing mechanism, but they're all different types. So it's really neat because as a contractor, you get to learn a lot about how the deals put together, how developers work, and how these a lot of these developers are nonprofits, and you get to work with them and see how it really works. I mean, we've been on jobs where we've had up to 7 funding agencies.
Wow.
So when you go to get paid every month, you're having 7 different people look at it, and that's also tough because it takes a little bit longer in this business to get paid.
That's amazing. Matt, what are you thinking?
You mentioned the compliance component, but I wondered if there was anything else that you had to do to really break into affordable housing the way that you did, because clearly you were able to get into the market and then grow your business, pretty substantially based off of it. So what did you do to cement yourself in the affordable housing space?
In affordable housing, to me, the contractors that are there and the owners that are there, again, I think we're there for a reason, a little bit more than just the norm. And for us, we always want to be your partner, have a true partnership. In my previous life before this, I did a lot of public and state work where it was low bid gets it. And that's great for a lot of people. I didn't want to pursue that because I wanted to be able to be a little bit more selective. And you would be surprised, in affordable, you can be selective with your subcontractors and your vendors. The people that are there, they realize they bring value to the table. And we were able to position ourselves, and still do, in a position where we could show and illustrate to people we're bringing value. We're not just a number. There's people behind our organization. We have certain values and morals, our culture, our entire culture. I tell everyone it's in our DNA. We want to help people. We want to be a catalyst in revitalizing neighborhoods or particular areas of town, things of that nature. So you have to have not only yourself as, I guess the contractor, but all of your people and your employees who you work with every day, they really have to buy in. Because I can tell you, you can't force it upon your employees. There's been many of, I'll say, for instance, project managers, even superintendents, I should say, too, that have come in over the years and said, yeah, I'll do the affordable work. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. They don't last long because they're like, man, this is too much. I'm just going to go to work for a builder developer who's got a bunch of money, and I'm just going to build. And that's great. That's great for a lot of people. But again, that's not our model.
Wow. So okay. So we're in 2008. You start getting into the affordable housing game. Was that always the vision? Did you always envision getting into the affordable housing business back in 2005 and maybe even before, as you had the inkling?
Yeah, we actually did. We do market rate, obviously, as well. Okay, so market rate apartments, we build, again, senior housing, things of that nature. But to this day, I've never run the calculation, I probably should, but I always say 95% of our business is in the affordable arena in some form or fashion.
I've run the numbers. It's about 85.
Okay, 85. There you go.
Yep, it's in that zone. It is a large majority, for sure. And it depends on the year, right? You might have a big a big market rate job that,
right,
it takes over those numbers. But if we look at it pure by job count, it is definitely the large majority of what you guys do. So what I just want to call out here for our audience as you're listening to Jason's story, two things that come out to the forefront to me right out of the gate. And then there's a third that we're starting to hear in the conversation. Number one is that there's a strategic vision from the outset of the business that this is the type of work we want to get into. And it's kind of probably the driver that puts you into business in the first place, is that's what we want to do. And then the second piece is that you have delayed gratification, and you recognize that you've got to earn that before you can just jump into it. So for 3 years, you keep your head down, you do what it takes to build resume, you do what it takes to build bondability, probably.
Yes.
Right. And have the patience that's necessary to get in to this space that was always a part of the vision. And how many people, Matt, do we run into that they're kind of doing what they're doing purely by happenstance, as opposed to with intent, right? I mean, it's a cool story.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fear that goes along with this idea of choosing a niche and committing to it, and really saying that this is the type of company that we're going to be, not just because of the fear of missing out on other projects, but the fear of committing to an organization that is going to act in that way, which I think maybe is sort of that other theme that's starting to emerge here when it comes to the culture, that there's this cultural component that is not just talking about being this kind of company. It's that we actually have to commit to every single operation that we have internally is designed around going after affordable housing projects and being on that mission-driven approach.
Yeah, it's a very difficult space to dabble in, it sounds like, Jason. It sounds like, it'd be very difficult to not typically do affordable housing and then pick one up here and there, because you kind of have to tool your business around it.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I know a lot of times there will be primarily market rate builders when things get slow in the in the economy and say, hey, I want to jump into the affordable space, and they quickly realize it's a whole different ballgame. For the most part, they don't like it because there are a lot of confines that you have to operate in. You have to really understand the full circle of how an affordable project comes together.
Yep.
It's not just fitting a set of plans. The majority of what we do and what we feel we bring a lot of value to the table is our developer friends and clients over the years. They call us a lot of times before they even buy the dirt or as they're buying the dirt and say, hey, what do you think this is going to cost? What can you do, et cetera. And it can be in various states. We've grown to work in quite a few states, and we're still growing. We're going to add more, but it takes a lot of understanding from beginning to end, the whole life cycle of an affordable job to be able to really, I think, do it well.
Yep. Yeah. So you got the strategic vision to get into it. You got the delayed gratification to work your way into it and not expect that, all of it just comes right in the door. And then you've also got this partner in your brother that, I know helps you. And there's this ability to work in a successful partnership that also is, speaking of your DNA, woven in to how you've succeeded. And we'll do more talking about partnership through the remainder of this conversation. But now we're up to 2008. We met Jason in 2021. So take us from 2008 to 2021. What happens in the business over that time period?
A lot of things. Again, we still do build commercial projects, but more locally around our two offices in the multifamily arena. And again, whether it's market rate or affordable, a lot of projects now have a retail component on the first floor typically, and you'll build apartments above it. So it's nice to have that company and those people to be able to rely on, because we can do a restaurant, we can build a nail salon, we can build whatever. Even if it's a cold dark shell, we know what that is.
Yeah.
We build shopping centers, so we know we have the expertise to be able to do that and weave it in with the multifamily. So we grew really both companies. But what really happened for block builders, again, the multifamily arm, is we grew our client base slowly but surely. And we had what we still have today is we have a lot of repeat clients. We have clients that we've been building for 10 and 12 years. And actually, the reason we went to expand it into other states was because the clients asked us, hey, would you like to come here? Or would you consider coming here and taking a look at this project? So obviously we did. We were successful in Texas, and we built in Texas for a number of years. In 2019, I believe, right as COVID was coming around, I made the great decision to move to Houston and open that office myself. And I was the only person, and I went. And
you were like, what I miss is that crawfish table. I'd like another one, but I want it in Texas.
Yeah, I can tell you, my wife was none too happy because we have 5 children, and our youngest son was a junior in high school. He had just started, and he didn't want to move. So I understood that. So I went ahead and moved, rented an apartment, and started looking at work in Houston. And that was challenging because I would go back and forth, or my wife and my son would go back and forth until they finally moved 2 years later. But it allowed me to open an office there, to expand within the state of Texas, and especially within Harris County, and specifically the city of Houston. And we started doing a lot of work there, and made a lot of friends, and I think helped a lot of people, and it's gone well. Since then, we started working in Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee now.
Yep.
We just became licensed in Washington, D.C., Oklahoma, and Florida due to clients asking us to take a look at those locations.
It's wonderful. That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
And so, Matt, I joked about this at the beginning of the conversation, but like, I know all of this, but you don't, because I'm front and center, and I do a lot of the stuff with Block. What questions arise for you as you hear this story, and what's jumping out to you as things that you want to dig into?
Well, I've got two, one for Jason and one that actually I might pose to you, Chad, or a combination of you both. But Jason, the question going through my mind is just, did you ever have so you had this vision that we wanted to be this kind of company, and then you went and started doing it. And I'm just curious, do you ever remember a moment where it was like oh shit, we're doing it moment, like where we're really building this stuff, we're really breaking into it, and it's working?
Yeah, I still have it every day. It's rewarding every day. But yes, initially I would say after I'd done probably my first 3 or 4 jobs, I really started getting a feel for it and understanding it a little bit better. And now we've built thousands. We average probably 2,500 units a year now that we build.
Wow.
So we've grown quite a bit. And, it's funny because my partners and I now, we sit back and we're like, this is a lot of fun. And can you believe we're really doing this? I've even told Chad,
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chad.
No, please.
It's just it's very cool. I mean, I'm fortunate to get to talk to a lot of business owners around the country, but it still is always special, because to go out and go do it on your own there's no guarantees that anything is going to work out. And we need entrepreneurs in this country that are willing to take the risk. And at the same time, I also hope that you get to enjoy those moments that are really the culmination of a lot of hard work to get there. And so I could imagine that it's still happening. That you still get those moments. So it's very cool to hear.
That's what's so gratifying about this type of work, because literally every single job is a win, not just for the company. That's really not it. It's a win for everybody involved in the project, in the entire development, from whether it's a city housing authority or a town, or a developer, and us. It's truly, you can truly work as a partnership. I always wanted that in construction. I felt like that was missing in what I call the public bid world. It's low bid, and you kind of, I don't know, that just wasn't my thing. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to be able to provide a real service and know that we were helping.
Have you gotten to share like that feeling and belief with a lot of your customers along the way, that even before they were customers, that's just the way that you see it and what you've been built around?
Yes, for sure. When we talk to potential clients, they ask, "Hey, why do you do this? How long have you been doing it? Tell us about it and stuff." And I tell them the same thing I'm telling you. It's in our DNA. That's what we like. If you're going to work at Block, you're going to understand this. And we work. I know all contractors probably say and do work hard, but again, in this space, I do think you have to work a little bit harder, and things are a little bit more difficult. So you have to be prepared to put your nose in the grindstone.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because I can certainly, with this being, one of the first time, I mean, it's the first time you and I have met. We've interacted on LinkedIn some, and Chad's told me a lot about you, obviously. But like, I can sense, like, genuinely, I mean this, like, I can sense your genuine belief behind it when you say it. And I just imagine, in terms of breaking in with customers and getting to do this around the country, that message has also resonated with the people that you're building for, and that's been part of the reason why they've been so excited to work with Block, and you've been able to have success like you have here. And then the other question I was going to ask, that's maybe a combination of both of you, and maybe I'm jumping ahead because I'm maybe thinking past 2021, as you've been, breaking into Houston and all of that. But Chad, maybe I'll ask you, could you speak to what you guys have been doing to replicate this model and success in Baton Rouge and Houston in these other markets throughout the southern United States?
I mean, from my perspective, when I met Jason and Steve and PJ, the three partners of Block in 2021, I saw that they had a recipe really well honed for the type of work they want, the type of client they want to work with, in this successful partnership model. So, I mean, Matt, it's so funny. We work with all kinds of contractors from all different walks, right? And so, for just as evidence of how successful Block is at creating true partnerships with all of these different entities, in the very few situations, because look, they've been growing a lot, right? They've been growing a whole lot. In the very few partnerships that have had some, what I would say, very, very normal for most people in the construction industry, kind of hostilities and adversarial nature. Jason's like, what the hell is going on? This is not normal. This is not how we work. And he'll call me and he'll be like, I just got this email. And I'm like, that's a totally normal email, man. Like, that's a totally, and he's like, not for me. That's not what we do. And I'm like, that really is. So the partnership machine was really well dialed in. But Jason, when we first started working together in 21, if I remember correctly, you guys had grown essentially 3 or 4x in a very short period of time when we met. And so you guys were bumping up against a lot of growing pains when we first started working together. And I don't know exactly what this is actually an interesting conversation for me to learn from too. I don't know exactly what the impetus was for you to say, we need to work together. But what was that trigger moment when you said, hey, what was going on in the business that made you seek support?
So I have the exact moment. I can tell you why and when we hired you. So we had been growing, and myself and my partners were very process driven, and we always wanted to be, even though we were what I say a smaller company, and we still are. I don't consider us a big company. I would say we're kind of like a boutique contractor, so to speak. But we always wanted to be using the best technology. We always wanted to have at our fingertips, and to all of the employees that we work with day in, day out, we wanted to provide them the best that was out there. And part of that was enhancing policies and procedures and really growing the business and looking at our business model and saying, all right, how are we going to do this? Well, as we talked about earlier, partnership was a big thing. And I had never seen anybody like Chad, honestly, in action, so to speak, in our world, if that makes sense. I've seen coaches in management companies and things of that nature in other businesses, but never really in construction. We had two projects actually, with a client in the city of Houston and Harris County, and the client actually had hired Chad because there was a lot of different personalities and a lot of different people involved. So they wanted to keep us together and make sure the job was a success. So Chad had a full day, all day, of all the principals, and it was from the financing agencies to the city, to the county, to the compliance departments, to Block, to the developer. I mean, just a whole host of people. It must have been 30-something people there that day. And I bet you in the first 5 minutes when Chad started speaking, I turned to my brother and I said, we're hiring this guy. And he started laughing and he said, you beat me to it. I was going to say the same thing. And I was like, we're going to grow and he's going to help us grow. So
Wow.
I will say a lot of what we are doing now is recommended and put in place and helped us figure out the smart way to grow was really through a lot of Chad's input. You know, he listened, and he still does, to our issues. Everything is not always beautiful, trust me. And so he hears everything. You know, I tell every client that I meet, I promise you, I will always tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you don't want to hear that, then don't hire me, because I'm going to be honest with you. When I first started Block, this is before I built anything. I said, what do I want to be about? And I wrote down 3 things, and all Block employees know it. And the first thing I wrote down was professionalism, professionalism, professionalism. I wrote it 3 times.
Wow.
I wanted to be a professional organization. And the second thing I wrote was be firm but fair. And I tell everyone, clients, subcontractors, everyone, I'm fine if you're firm with me, as long as we're fair. You know, and I say, if I make a mistake, I'm going to eat it. I'm going to write the check. I'm going to pay for it, and we're going to go on, and we're not going to complain. But on the same hand, if I'm not at fault, I would expect my partners to operate in the same manner. And then always have a sense of urgency. You know, we pride ourselves on, myself and my 2 partners, if we're involved with all of our projects. Now we have kind of divided the business, kind of tried to divide and conquer into different arenas. We still all help each other, but I'm very involved in pre-construction. I love estimating. I love pre-construction, so I do a lot of that. My brother is like a development / financing savant. I mean, he's phenomenal. So he brings a lot to the table for us when speaking to clients that I think a lot of contractors don't do. And then our partner PJ is fantastic with field operations, and he watches over all the field. And again, we help one another, obviously, but that's kind of how we have it broken up, so to speak.
It's awesome. That's I remember that day, and I remember they did literally. Y'all approached me at lunch.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That was the first break.
Yeah, first break was probably 10:30. So, do you do this for companies? They said. I was like, that's actually what I normally do. Sometimes I do it for project teams, but I normally do this for. And when you say this, what exactly do you mean? Right.
Yeah.
And we got into talking about, you know, growth and managing a growing team and setting expectations and pulling people together off of the same sheet of music. And I have to say, one of the things that I admire, I can give advice all day, Jason. Right. And Matt and I can give advice until we're blue in the face. But what Block has done is truly acted, has committed to the discussions we've had. We don't just talk about it. You take action. I come down in person once a quarter, every quarter, and I'm telling you, man, every quarter I come down there, the stuff that we talked about the last quarter, we've done the large majority of it. If we didn't do it, it's probably because we didn't need to. And you know, we made the decision not to. It's almost never because we just didn't get around to it, or we didn't think about it. There is a culture of execution and that sense of urgency and that professionalism, all those things really do shine through. And it starts, Jason, sincerely with you and with PJ and with Steve, with just a commitment to, we're not here to talk about things. We're not here for fun. It happens to be fun, but we're here to do things. We're here to make change. And where I think you guys deserve all the credit in the world is in figuring out what it meant to be a Block caliber person. And you know, when you were growing, and again, I'm taking our audience through some of the conversations that we had early on, and that we continue to have today, though they change, but that we had early on. Hey, remember, I just walked in. These guys have grown by 3 or 4x in 5 years or 3 years or something crazy like that. Huge uptick in work, which meant you'd also hired a bunch of people.
Yep.
And there were, if I can be so blunt, there were definitely people who were not the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we're all leaders, I think, all ethical leaders are posed with the same problem, which is like, I don't want to let people go if I don't feel like I set them up for success. And if I didn't set the standards, maybe I didn't train them right, like all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to just let people go. What we did was 3 things that I remember really clearly, and then Block executed beautifully. One is we laid out in no uncertain terms the core values of the company that everybody was bought into. Right. Number 2 is we established standard operating procedures in operations and estimating that became the sort of non-negotiable standards that we were holding everybody to. And then number 3 is we began training the hell out of those things so that people were given every chance to succeed. And number 4 is something that if I could have everybody else do, it would truly make the impact, because we can do 1, 2, and 3 and not get the follow through. If you don't have the discipline to do it, what Block has done is to hold people to that standard and not accept people who are unwilling to follow it. Right. So what are for you sort of the trigger points where you say, hey, I'm sure you're going to be great somewhere, but you can't be here. Where are those moments for you?
That's a great question. As we grew, and as you said, nobody's perfect. We make mistakes all along the way. And like I say, I'm going to admit it. We don't always make the right decision. We had some rough waters for sure, as you can remember, hiring the wrong people. And what I, over a long, painful time, realized was what's the most important to me is when we are interviewing or we are talking to a potential employee, I want them to understand our culture first. I want them to understand what we do. I want them to understand how we do it. And I want them to understand that we enjoy what we do, but it's not easy. Okay? And we work hard. That is something that current and former employees will tell you. If you come to work at Block, you're going to be expected to work. And that's true. That is the way me and my partners are just wired. There's not another way to say it.
I can attest. You guys go harder than the large majority of people I know.
Yeah, I mean, we do that, and so by being that way, we do expect excellence, and we do expect a lot out of the people that we work with. But as I said before, we want to provide them with the best that we can give them as far as training. We invest a lot in training, as you know. We keep Chad very busy. And even outside of that, we have a lot of training. But our executives they're very like-minded. We've got the right people in the right positions. So it permeates really from top down. And we've been successful because I would say most of the people that work for us, whether they're an hourly field employee or whatever, they understand what we're about and they get it. And they live it too. And they know what we're doing, and there's a reason why we do it. But a lot of times when people come, they do say the right things and they do have the pedigree. But when it comes down to it, after you've kind of laid things out and spoken to them and given them the opportunity, the hardest thing is when you have to go to someone and say, hey, I know you can do this. I know you're smart. You've done it before, but it takes a little bit more in this arena. So you're going to have to do it, a little bit more. And like Chad said, it's never fun. It's never easy. I don't like laying people off, but sometimes it's the best for both parties. And when I come to that decision, or when someone in authority comes to that decision, we talk to each other, and that decision is made, and we move forward.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like right, we don't have the same conversation over and over again. Is what I mean. It's once the decision's made, it's made, and action is taken. And generally, how do you feel after that action is taken?
That's a tough one. I feel always conflicted because it's someone's livelihood.
Sure.
There's a family. There's normally someone there that you're affecting. But really and truly, it's for the best. It's for the best of that person's career, because you can't always, they say you can't fit a square peg in a round hole for a reason. You can be great at building apartments, but you have to be great at more than just building apartments to do and to succeed in the field and in the way we work. And that's okay. Not everybody wants to build apartments. They may want to build nothing but hospitals, and that's great. So I'm very upfront with people, and so are my partners, about kind of who we are and what we're about.
Well, and I think that kind of goes to it, but how has the way, since you've really, made this commitment over the last couple of years to get the right people in the right seats, like how has the way that you screen candidates changed during the hiring process to evaluate whether or not they'll be a good fit once they get inside?
Literally, the first thing I talk to them about is culture, about what we are about. We also, sorry, my computer just timed out. I'm getting back on now. It just went blank and I lost y'all. But anyway.
Thankfully, you stayed with us. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
Chad introduced us to a DISC test. And when we get to a certain progression in the interviewing process, we have people take a DISC assessment. That helps as well. That is not a deciding, final deciding factor, but it just helps us kind of understand who that person is, kind of paint the picture a bit. Not to get into DISC too much, but it kind of tells you how to speak to them, or what questions they may respond better or worse to. So you can kind of, when you talk to them, I want to set them up for success. So I want to understand them as well as them understand us. So we do that. We also interview people now more thoroughly. Before, we didn't have, multiple people talk a lot of times. A lot of times we were busy, and I made the best decision I could, and a lot of times I made the wrong decision. So I have been able, fortunately, with the people that work with us, to get them. I want their input, and also we're now organized into certain, business modules, to where we know that person's going to fit within the business. So they will go speak to the director, or they may go speak to a senior PM, or they may go speak to an estimator or a project coordinator, depending on what avenue they're coming in. They're not just going to talk to me. There's going to be probably a minimum of 3 people that are going to talk to them. And all of us collectively talk a lot about the people that we all interview.
Fantastic. So there's the cultural component of really evaluating if they fit in what we do. There's the communication component with DISC. And then I think there's just to bring in the right people into the room. And I might even say kind of an organizational clarity component here, that who they should be talking to and interacting with, because just what you're doing now, it's clear where they're going to be sitting and what they need to get done.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of us, I want to be structured, but flexible. I don't ever want to be a company
Love that
is rigid. Okay. Again, whether you are an owner, a banker, or a laborer, you can come knock on me or my partner's door anytime you want. Everyone has my cell phone number, and you're welcome to call. And I will talk to anyone and everyone, and I will listen. And my partners are the same way. I'm very fortunate in that, as I said earlier, one of my partners is my older brother, Steve. Steve's been doing this, I won't say how many years, but quite a few. I've been doing it 35, and he's older than me.
There you go. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. So, but a lot of people ask me, "Oh my gosh, how do you stay in business with a family member, especially your brother?" I've heard that so hard. I see so many people don't make it, and to be honest with you, I've had the best time and continue to have the best time being in business with my brother. We've never had an argument, and that's the truth. And with our partner, PJ, he's younger, but PJ's been with us 15 years. Same thing. We all get along. We know our lanes, and we like helping each other, but we all give each other the opportunity to operate and to perform and to do the best we can for the company as a whole. We do everything thinking about what is the best for everybody, not just what is the best for you. It's more of a collective kind of thing.
Well, some of my favorite moments in running Well-Built, because I started working with Block very early in our business. I think when we started working together, we had 3 people or something like that, right? Today we have 16, something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
And some of my very best memories since starting Well-Built have been meetings with you and PJ and Steve, talking about the hard stuff, talking about the most important things. You've rightly called out, it's not all sunshine and roses. There are some really, really difficult conversations, but I value those conversations so greatly because of the level of professionalism and honesty that you guys manage to balance in the same token, right? Like there's professionalism to the point where we hide how we feel.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's striking that balance of saying exactly what needs to be said and being very professional in how it needs to be said. And that's how an effective partnership is run. I think you guys are, living it every day and doing a great job. So, one of the other things that I think about, in my journey with you is that I remember our first strategic planning retreat. Okay. And in that retreat, I remember it was very clearly stated, hey, our goal is not to grow. Our goal, it's not that we don't want to grow. It's just that that is not our goal. Our goal is not growth. Our goal is to be the absolute best company. Our goal is excellence. Our goal is to be a well-oiled machine, right? And those were the things that we set out to accomplish. And certainly, there's always room for improvement along those lines. But would you agree that you've come light years in the past handful of years on your well-oiled machine-ness?
Yes. Again, I sit back and I think about it, and I talk to my partners, and we really go, man, can you believe we are where we are? We've just been extremely fortunate to be where we are. We've got a great group of people. And I think that if you just, it's kind of simple. If you just do the right thing, I know these are a lot of cliches, but you treat people the way you want to be treated, and you're fair, good things happen to good people. And that's the way we want to operate. That's the way we want to be. I don't want to take a job just to take it because I need it. I don't want to take a job with a client that I know may not be aligned with us, let's say, philosophically, or maybe they just like the way they operate, and it's not the way, that we really mesh well together.
Right.
So I don't want to waste time and energy on that when I think you can find partners that truly value what you can bring to the table. And that's what we try to do. We're always looking for new clients. There's no doubt.
Sure.
But, you want to just we try to make sure that it's the right client.
Yeah, it's more of an.
I want them to know we're the right contractor. And look, for some people, we're not. That's okay.
I noticed that it's for you guys, it's more of a mutual interview than it is, let's go chase this job. It's more of like a let's evaluate, let's interview each other, figure out if we're a mutual fit, and if we are, then we probably ought to build your job.
Yeah.
Right. And that tends to be more of like a natural outcome. So as much as the I remember, like, focus of conversation, we don't want to grow, or, we don't want to focus on growth. We want to focus on operational excellence, being a well-oiled machine, all that kind of stuff. Have you grown in the past 4 years?
Yes, we have. Yes.
Funny how that happens.
It's pretty funny. Our bonding agent, great guy. We've been with him forever. We used to always have conversations saying, I want to be, I'd like to do X amount, X amount of revenue a year. It took a very, very long time to hit that mark. And we've hit it, and we've surpassed it. And, the challenging thing is to keep doing what we're doing it the right way, and maintaining that, and then hopefully adding to it. Especially within, gosh, you've had COVID, you've had, just the economy right now, it's not great. You've got to deal with tariffs, you've got to deal with a lot of different things. There was a time where people were guaranteeing their prices for 24 hours. I mean, it was crazy.
That was crazy.
Right.
Just nuts. How do you deal with that? But you figure it out, and again, you get with like-minded people who understand that it's not just you. It's everyone is affected this way. And I think, again, we want to come to the table and be open and say, okay, this is the challenge. Right? We have a way we think we can mitigate it. What do you think? And let's figure it out together. And I always feel like I never want to just walk away from a table. I always want to be able to negotiate and feel like there is a way to get to the end of the rainbow, so to speak, together and finish it. And that's a lot of the way we operate too. Is we want to do the best we can. We've been successful at it. Sometimes it doesn't work. Chad knows. We've had some very challenging projects where at the end we realized, all right, well, we learned a valuable lesson.
Well, the key is to learn the lesson.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Let's not repeat it.
Yeah. You're going to learn lessons as you grow and as you guys take risks and chances. But, in addition to all the growth that you've experienced, one of the things that I also observe is you haven't really added much by way of headcount compared to 2021. Meaning, in other words, you've been able to do more with less. And I think it's because you've been so successful at designing, and I appreciate your gratitude. Your gratitude is so infectious, and it's a wonderful trait. And I think a key part of your success, that you truly just, I know you believe it to your core. You're just very fortunate to be surrounded by great people. You have surrounded yourself with those people, and you've helped to bring out the best in them. And I'll give you credit for that. You don't need to take it. But that's what you've done. And they have taken you to this point, and they love working hard. They love it. They have the same pride in their work, and it attracts more people who meet who meet those same standards. And I will say that your recent hires, you've made excellent hires. You're attracting the right people, and the word is on the street. This is a great place for A players to come to work. And you definitely, you don't need to give yourself that credit, but you deserve it.
Well, like I said, we try, and we are very fortunate to have a lot of good people with us. And we're always, as we grow or as a need arises, we want to hire the best person for it. And I always tell people too, I don't want to hire for a job. I want to hire. Really, I say, I want to hire you for life. When you come to work here, I want you to stay. Because I feel like we really pour our heart and soul into people, and we really do care. Again, it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. We put a lot of time and effort and want to into all of the people that work with us day in and day out. And sometimes people leave, and I understand that. But I'll tell you, when people leave, it messes with me. I'm like, what did I do wrong? What did we do wrong? What could I have done differently? I feel like sometimes, I failed. What happened in that, to cause that. So we're always trying to figure that out.
Well, that's probably the thoughts that would go on in your head if you took it personally and you cared. So, it's probably working for you more than it's working against you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, what's on your mind as we come draw to the close of this interview?
Just it's very neat hearing how you've done what you've done, Jason. And again, I mentioned it and Chad echoed it, but just I can feel what you're saying, and that's a cool feeling. So thank you for sharing it, and I certainly like hearing it. So it's cool to hear.
Well, thank you. Feels great meeting you face to face, Chad. I'm sure I will see you soon.
Yes, you will. I'll be there later in July, sir.
We will continue fighting the fight.
Yes, we will, and I'll be in touch, I'm sure, a few times in between now and then as we slay some dragons, win some work, create some happy customers, and create some happy team members.
That's right.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jason. Appreciate you sharing your story. Guys, if you want to learn more about Block, you should go to blockcompanies.com. You should definitely follow them on LinkedIn. You should, they're doing some amazing projects. They're doing some amazing work in the community. If you love to work hard and you're interested in what Jason's laid out, I would strongly endorse a conversation with Block. May not be for you, but just know that Jason will be all focused on trying to figure out if it is, and you can rest assured. So,
thanks so much, Chad. It's great being on.
Yeah, thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
We'll see you soon.
All right. I'll take
Thanks,
care.
sir.